Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Todd Michael Glazer, the real estate developer who was in the news a few weeks ago in regards to purchasing Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, looks like he has pulled the trigger and has gone ahead with the purchase. Now, this house was on the market for $22 million. And I figure that there is a discount in here for Mr. Todd Michael Glazer. You would think that with the notoriety of the home and the fact that it's rather ogreish, right? The actual house itself is a pretty basic, boring design, and a lot of people say it's an eyesore. The real value there is the land. So that's what the developer was looking at. And not only is he buying the property, they're tearing it down, which is fantastic news to anybody who has ever been abused in that house, I'm sure. And I'm sure it's great news for the neighbors. Something like that kind of house in the neighborhood, you know, it's not the house from Breaking Bad, right? You're not drawing people in to go check that out for a reason that's, you know, some kind of pop culture reason. There is a heinous story behind that house, a gross history. And the fact that this developer is going to knock this place down and build something else there is a good thing. It's also a good thing that this is getting off the market and that this money is going to go to the victims fund and the survivors are going to be able to start getting out some of the money that they deserve from what occurred here. So this is going to go a long way towards that happening. 22 million, 18 million, 20 million, whatever he ends up paying for it, it's going to go a long way to get the compensation fund kicked off. And I hope this sets off a domino effect. I hope that all the other properties are purchased as well. And I hope they're all knocked down. I guess you could use them for like a museum or something. I don't know. But I don't know how anyone could ever live in a property like that knowing what occurred. I mean, you got to knock those places down. At least if it was me, I'd have to knock them down. So I think the guy in Palm Beach here, Todd Michael Glazer, is doing a really good job. And I'm sure the neighbors feel the same way. So we have an article this morning from the Wall Street Journal. And the headline is, Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach mansion to be demolished. What a great headline. And a great way to put a stamp on this dude's absurd legacy. He ran around living the life of Riley for way too long. And now, when all is said and done, when all the lights come on, he's the one that looks like the asshole. His legacy is destroyed. And it could not be a better way to end his chapter in this whole entire sordid ordeal than these houses being purchased, the money going to those he abused, and then these places where he carried out this criminal behavior getting razed to the ground. I think that's a fitting end for Jeffrey Epstein's shitbag legacy. This article was authored by Catherine Clark. A local real estate developer who says he's in contract to buy the waterfront estate is planning to knock it down and build a new home. So we talked about this when it first came out in the news, that he was in the initial stages of perhaps purchasing the house. Now, though, he is much further along, and obviously he is going to close on this house. Todd Michael Glazer, a Florida real estate developer, said he has signed a contract to buy a Palm Beach waterfront property from the estate of the late financier, pedophile, and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The house came on the market in July for $21,995,000. So roughly $22 million. And when it came to market, I said then that I thought that there would be a discount. I figured about $2 million or so, right? I thought that that would be in the range that would get the tires kicking for somebody. So let's see. And I wonder if they're going to give us a number in this article, because, remember, I haven't read this article yet, by the way. So I wonder if they're going to give us a number in this article for the price that he ended up getting it at. Obviously, it's going to come out in the end, right? We'll know when the home is purchased and we'll know what the price is then, obviously. But I'm just curious right now. My curiosity is getting the better of me. And I wonder if my estimate was close, right around 20 million, I said. So I guess we'll see further into the article. Mr. Glazer said that the deal is slated to close in December, after which he plans to tear the property down and replace it with a 14,000 square foot art modern home. Mr. Glazer is known for building elaborate spec mansions, such as a home on Miami's Star Island that recently sold for about $49.5 million. He was also one of the developers of the 1,000 Museum Tower designed by the late Zaha Hadid in downtown Miami. So this guy is this guy's like a serious developer. He's been involved in serious projects. So whatever he comes up with down there is going to be fantastic. And the neighborhood and the people in the neighborhood are going to love how their property value is going to skyrocket. I mean, $49.5 million? That's a huge project, a huge undertaking, and I'm sure that it is a beautiful property. So if you were one of the neighbors down here, right, one of the people who lived close to Jeffrey Epstein's little shitty eyesore of a mansion, you're like jumping through hoops right now that this is going to be gone soon, right? This is like the best news you can possibly imagine, besides the guy getting arrested, getting him out of the neighborhood for good, but like I was saying, this will put a stamp on it, right? End his legacy, finish him off, and let him get blasted into the four corners of the wind and out into history. Because this man doesn't deserve to have any legacy. What he deserves is to have everything that he ever accumulated in his life given to those that he abused. That is the fate that his legacy deserves. And it will be a fantastic day when we get the news that Zorro Ranch is also sold and Zorro Ranch is destroyed and burned to the ground. I mean, obviously it would be nice if we can get a police raid there first, but all of these properties, in my opinion, it would be a fitting way to finish it off. Just hope they get purchased, and I hope they get destroyed and remodeled, or just completely destroyed and then rebuilt like Mr. Glazer is going to do down here in Florida. Because remember, this property has all of that water frontage view. It's a huge chunk of property where you have a beautiful view of the water, and if you have the right sort of finances and the kind of money that Mr. Glazer has, well, you could go in there and make this into a serious, awesome kind of property and live there or flip it or whatever it is you want to do. But the property itself, not the house, but the property is incredibly awesome. And that is the kind of property that under other circumstances would sell right away and not at a discounted price. Palm Beach is going to be very happy that it's gone, he said of Mr. Epstein's home. 100%. I was talking about that just a second ago. There's no doubt that the people in the neighborhood are very happy that this is going to be something that is of the past, something that's going to be finished, right? A chapter that they can close and not have the specter of Jeffrey Epstein and his house of horrors hanging over their properties and their neighborhoods. And even for them personally, you walk around and you see that place and you look at it and you must think to yourself, what a disgusting son of a bitch living so close to me. And I don't know, it would give me the willies for sure. So I would definitely think that Mr. Glazer is on point here when he says the neighborhood is going to benefit as a whole. Mr. Glazer declined comment on what he and his partners are paying for the house, beyond stating that they received a discount. All right, so I was wondering if we'd get this in this article, and I guess we are going to get it. So the discount, he gets the discount, and he goes on record saying that he has the discount, but he won't say how much. Another person close to the deal said the price was close to $18 million. Wow, that's an incredible deal, honestly. But I guess you have to take into account that he is knocking the house down and he's going to have to rebuild. So I'm guessing that that would come into play. I'm not a real estate agent by any means, so I'm not too sure if that, is part of the bargaining or if that comes into play at all. But you would think if he's tearing that house down and there is such a stigma on that house that if he's offering $18 million cash, that the estate would jump at that, and the people involved in sending that money out to the girls who were abused by Jeffrey Epstein, they'd be pretty happy about that as well. Again, I haven't heard anything one way or the other how anyone feels about it, but I would think that an $18 million injection in that fund is a step in the right direction. The compound is in a pricey part of Palm Beach, roughly a mile from Mar-a-Lago President Trump's private club, and just a few streets from the Everglades golf course. So that's all like elite stuff, right? You and I aren't invited to stuff like that. I mean, certainly not going to be joining the club at any of the places where Jeffrey Epstein's hanging out, I'm sure. So it was a very elite part of Palm Beach, as we all know, and the people that he was associating with on a regular basis were amongst the elite of the elite, and a lot of it was happening at Mar-a-Lago. Before Epstein and Trump had their falling out, Epstein was a regular over at Mar-a-Lago, and he was there quite a bit. And I'm sure he was rubbing shoulders with all of the other elite dirtbags, most of them from New York, probably down there summering with Chad and Buffy. These people are so ridiculous. The property has roughly 170 feet of water frontage on the Intracoastal Waterway, with space for a dock and views of Tarpon and Everglades Islands, listing agent Kerry Warwick of the Corcoran Group told the Wall Street Journal when the property came on the market. So again, that 170 feet of frontage is a huge selling point. I know that for me, I can't even imagine how awesome that would be. Imagine building one of those awesome decks, put like a jacuzzi on it, or one of those those pools where it looks like the water is running over the side, and just wake up every morning and go out there, get your workout in, hang out on your patio, take a look over at the islands, watch the sunrise. What a beautiful life. Imagine having all that money, having all of that privilege and all of that, just basically whatever you wanted to do right at your fingertips. And you chose to wield that power in the way Jeffrey Epstein did. Talk about being sick. Talk about being demented. The 6-bedroom, roughly 14,000 square foot house was designed by architect John Volk in West Indies style. And I can see that. The house definitely looks like one of the houses in the West Indies when you look at the at pictures of the West Indies or, of video or movies, the same kind of structure. But that's not a kind of fit for Palm Beach and where Jeffrey Epstein's pad was. So I think it's going to be I'm really, interested to see what the end result is after Mr. Glazer gets done, knocking it down and then rebuilding it and refashioning it in an image of his own design. I think it'll be a awesome point in this case, right? It took a long time for Jeffrey Epstein to get arrested. And then, unfortunately, while he was in custody, he allegedly committed suicide. So there was no closure there really for these girls and for the people that he abused. But now with his whole entire fortune being dispersed, the house being raised, the other houses on sale, the planes for sale, his whole life is being liquidated. And guess what? Let's hope that people who have designs on the same sort of nonsense are taking a long, hard look at what happens to people like Epstein and Keith Raniere, and they think twice. Mr. Epstein bought the house for $2.5 million in 1990, records show. In addition to his lavish townhouse in New York, it played a central role in his alleged sex trafficking schemes, according to prosecutors. He allegedly enticed and recruited underage girls to the property to engage in sex acts. A spokesman for Mr. Epstein's estate wasn't immediately available for comment. The New York townhouse is still on the market, asking $88 million, according to the website of listing agent Adam Modlin of Modlin Group. You know what's funny when they talk about the properties? How they never bring up Zorro Ranch. How none of these legacy media outlets ever want to bring up Zorro Ranch like it doesn't exist, like nothing occurred out there, like New Mexico isn't a shit show for missing women. It is amazing to me that there isn't a more extensive investigation going on in New Mexico. And if it wasn't for this case, I would have never really knew anything about New Mexico, to be honest with you. I would have never really had any interest in digging deeper about what's going on in New Mexico. And the problem that they have with missing women in New Mexico, especially indigenous women, is very scary and chilling. And for those of you who have started listening to my new podcast, Unsolved But Not Forgotten, then you know that we are on episode 1 of a case that takes place in New Mexico, which is the West Mesa killer case. Now, episode 2 will be out on Thursday, and that will be a profile of the victims. But my point is, in New Mexico, there's a lot of real scary, weird shit that goes on. And if you're an at-risk group, if you're indigenous or you're a drug user or you're a prostitute and you get caught up in New Mexico, it's almost like nothing occurs, like there's no chance that anyone's going to find you, or nobody even looks, it would seem like. And when you look at what's going on at Zorro Ranch and you put that into context with all of the other just scary, sad, depressing shit, it makes you wonder what Jeffrey Epstein was really doing in New Mexico and what those around him were doing in New Mexico. I know we have the Santa Fe Institute and Los Alamos, and obviously that is the main objective, but there's just a lot in that state, and it is very, very disheartening when we have these articles that don't even mention Zorro Ranch. So I will continue to mention it every chance I get, do my best to keep it in the news, to keep everybody thinking about it, and do my best to make sure that there's actually some sort of raid at some point, or the property's investigated at some point. I mean, nobody's gonna look for any clues on the property. There's no evidence there. Nothing could be hidden there. There's no pictures there. I mean, come on. So I think it's definitely a win that the Palm Beach house is being sold. I think it's awesome that it's being knocked to the ground. But the question remains, when will Zorro Ranch have its turn? If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, all of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. I will be back later on tonight, and we will pick back up where we left off. If you're in America, make sure you go and vote.